Welcome to the Purpose Pro podcast. This Purpose Pro podcast is all about talking about different aspects of mental health regarding high school teenagers and being able to give out information that is easily accessible to everyone. My name is Zaniya Prasla, and I'm a high school student, and I want to transform our understanding of teenage mental health. Today on Broken Image, I will be interviewing Miss Lydia Wehmeyer about gaming and literature as a means to provide mental health services to many children. You may think, how on earth do games help improve mental health, since most of you have heard about video games and all the negative impacts it has. So today we will take a deeper dive into how Ms. Wehmeyer implements a common love for games and children's psychology and how all that works when put together. So my first question is, could you tell me about more about your background in mental health and how you got involved in projects that combine gaming and literature with mental health services?
Well, it's actually a very interesting story. I used to teach for over 7 years in predominantly Black communities with trauma. And all growing up, I've always wanted to be a part of a gaming group. And I only in my 20s is when I discovered that I can actually fit into a gaming group because a lot of things that had happened were I didn't look like the gamer. And I when I was teaching, I had board game Fridays, and that's when I actually incorporated using board gaming into my education. I have a background in speech and theater, and I realized that no matter what area my kiddos came from, what type of mood they were in, it seemed to be alleviated by just putting a box on the table and playing. I'm currently in my, oh goodness, let's just say fourth. I'm a late grad student, so I'm wrapping up my degree in clinical mental health in May, fingers crossed. And I discovered just by playing tic-tac-toe that a simple game like that could bridge the communication to have someone express themselves. And during a conference, Gen Con, which is like one of the largest in North America, I had decided to be like, mental health and board gaming. How does it feel for me? Why did I play board games? And why am I teaching my kiddos how to play board games? And it just kind of clicked, so to speak. It there's so many different layers that can combine and like intersect the two that I started really using them like holistically on Fridays when I was teaching. And I had put together a proposal about mental health and board gaming and started realizing like the different cognitive connections that it can help with like stress relief and even fluency and literacy for like education. And it just kind of blossomed from there. I know, long explanation, so I apologize for that.
No, no problem. So when you first introduced it, like the game, was it mostly like with like the curriculum, kind of just like getting the kids to or like trying to teach the kids something, or was it like centered on their mental health?
Well, actually, since I was in a theater classroom, I could create my own curriculum. And
Oh,
it was Friday was just a free day because I felt self-care is something that's very, very important. And usually Fridays were a shortened schedule. So I brought the games in, and then I was always considered like mama. I was called mama a lot. And when I would have these moments when they would come and they would sit down and talk with me about maybe some challenges that they were having, I always had like my stack of games right there. And I had realized, okay, well, if administration comes in and they're like, what are all these people playing these games for? I might as well write a curriculum like with it. So whatever lesson I did, so for example, for team building, I would use a game like Suro, which is kind of a dexterity game where you move along and create different roads. And if you reach and hit each other, then you're both out of the game. Something small and simple like that was something I was able to connect with mental health because it created a distraction and broke down a wall for, in a way, healing to happen, whatever type of healing that they needed for that day.
Okay, so just out of curiosity, what was your like favorite game to like do with the kids?
Okay, so favorite game to do with the kids, but I also hated was Unstable Unicorns. Unstable Unicorn was like Uno.
Okay.
It was people got very, very upset when their unicorns got kicked out of the game, but it was one that they were able to teach other kids if I were busy helping another student with homework or just discussing something with them. It was the one game that they were able to really independently take on their own.
Okay, I got it. So what challenges have you faced in integrating these like mediums into mental health services, and how have you like overcame these challenges?
So I do want to clarify that I am in grad school, so I don't have like my personal practice or anything. So
Uh-huh.
the everything was very internal based in my classroom, and I traveled to different board gaming conventions to teach different people about how to be able to incorporate it. Some of the challenges were just the benefit and the value that other people saw. I mean, if you had right next to you, let's just say exploding kittens, you look at it, you know it's a game. It's really hard to teach someone, especially if they're of a higher up than you, that exploding kittens can build so many skills for individuals. But then also using it as a therapeutic tool, it's really hard to bring it, it's just a game. It's really hard. That was one of my biggest challenges was actually proving that these tools are very valuable. So the best way I could do it just in theater is to put it on stage, make it into an acting game, make it to be where it can apply to all the different levels of learning, kinesthetic and just everything like that. It was just really proving the value to those
Mhm.
that kind of make the really big decisions on, hey, you should do this or should you not do it. I would say that's one of my biggest challenges. And then also, now that I'm thinking about it, is when I tell people about that I combine mental health theories and just how it can promote mental health, it's actually getting over the initial reaction of, huh, never thought of it that way. And then I really it's the doubt in myself being like, am I actually doing something that's good? Am I doing something that is really going to benefit my kiddos? And so whenever I become an LPC, was as a licensed practicing counselor, I really want to be able to use it as like a board gaming therapy to where if you come during session, we can break out a board game and we can actually work through whatever that you want to work through in session. It's just getting over the confidence uh, of not feeling confident.
Okay, I got it. So when you're playing these games, like how does it work? Like how does one channel their problems into like the board game, and like how does it help resolve what they're going through?
So let's just say that you came into my room or wherever that we're at, and you're like, "Hey, Lydia," or "Hey, Miss Wehmeyer, I'm having a little bit of a struggle. Can we talk?" I may bring out a board game. I'm like, "Okay, well, let's talk about it over a game." And so I may be dealing out cards and asking, "Hey, how's it going? What's tell me how you are today." And then in that action, you have something tangible that you can kind of hold on to while you're actually speaking about what you would like to share with me, why you came and saw me. And then in the midst of it, it's kind of like this very interesting turntable because it just goes around
Mhm.
playing a game, but then you're also expressing yourself at the same time.
So if kids are like shy or like embarrassed to talk about their feelings and they're playing that game, how does the game like help them boost their confidence in order to kind of get out what they're feeling?
It really just depends on the the kiddo that actually comes and talks to me. Um, like I had mentioned, I have like so many ideas of how I want to try to implement this.
Uh-huh.
But one of the best ways is that I'm trying to think of a kiddo that I had. I did something simple as tic-tac-toe or hangman. We were just together. I grabbed a post-it. I was able to do the lines and they were able to feel the less intensity of sharing and communicating. And it it's very hard. I'm struggling with this question because it just really depends on the situation and the scenario
Uh-huh.
of why they're coming in.
No,
Um,
I definitely get that.
but the best way that I can try to wrap it up would be having something that is non-threatening to them for them to be able to feel comfortable in your space. And
Hmm.
with me being with these kiddos for like 8, 9 hours a day for several months, I was able to kind of
Uh-huh.
pick up different patterns and interests to kind of fit them. So I would have like a little shelf like off to the side. And just knowing them, I would be like, this may be something that we can work with. RPGs are really good too because it allows for a more free form communication because you can actually create and manipulate the scenario based on the kiddo or the person or the client.
Okay, I'm sorry, but what are RPGs?
So RPGs are role-playing games. So like I was gonna say magic, but you could do actually a role-playing game with magic. Like I said, I have a background in theater, so we would do a lot of improv. Um, so there is I'm looking at Magical Kittens is an RPG where you play as kittens. And so you can create your character, you can create your statistics of like what they are, like maybe they're very strong, maybe they're very soft, and just different things like that to kind of immerse them into a different world than what they're currently in.
Okay, so moving aside from like the overall picture, could you share some details about the projects that you're currently working on?
The projects that I'm currently working on, so I actually work as a consultant for Snow Bright Studios,
Mhm.
and I'm an education consultant to where I have created a wellness center in their Cozy Companion magazine, and it will be published sometime in June. I'm so excited.
That's
Where
exciting.
I'm so excited. I saw the character today of what they designed for me, and it's like a deer with like the name
Aw.
is Miss Petal, and like Miss Petal is wearing like a petal dress and has butterfly wings,
Aw.
and basically the whole thing is for Tabletop Adventures, and there's a wellness center, and I've basically are going to be writing articles about kind of like, dear so and so, I'm feeling stressed today. How can I find tools to fix that? And that's going to be a nice little continuation of building this wellness center to be able to attract different individuals, young and old, to be immersed into the culture of that companion book, which I'm so excited. I did actually get um, accepted to it's Geek Ed Con, and it is a mental health convention where you present about geek things, and I'll be presenting about either mental health and board gaming or mental health and comics, and I'm very, very excited about that. Also, I present at different conferences and conventions. So I'll be going to Gen Con in August, the newly accepted conference, like GeekCon. That's in Texas next month. I'm like, oh gosh. Um, and then Unplugged and probably PAX West. These are all board gaming conventions. And so that would be either September and December. I'm very passionate about sharing knowledge of what I'm very passionate in,
Mhm.
and it just seems to be working that I'm finding new knowledge about board gaming and the different cognitive ways it can be affected. And it's just really cool. It's
Yeah,
really
no,
cool.
I agree. Definitely really cool.
It's
Yeah.
really awesome.
So could you go more in depth about like the science behind how like mental health and gaming put together?
So this question will be kind of difficult for me to answer because like I'm not licensed yet. Um,
Okay.
it's mainly what I've researched has been really the connection to community,
Okay.
um, the cognitive um, examples of stress relief, uh, eliminating the essence of being alone. I'm trying to think of some of the things that I mentioned in my presentation that I just did. Um, the health, like the health levels of just being able to have a stress reliever is something that's really key. Let me ask you, like, why do you play a game?
Entertaining, it's fun, and I guess you can collaborate with like those you're playing with.
Exactly. That is one of the big, you want to be able to enjoy the game. But one of the studies that I really hope it's like I really do want to get more science behind it. I think it's extremely important. I would love to do like a research project where I can have several people play board games and they can measure their feelings, they can measure how um their reactions to it. So maybe that's something that we can talk about maybe trying to formulate some type of research, qualitative, quantitative research of figuring out the impact of mental health and board gamings because I've read articles on it, but there still needs to be a lot more. So that's something that's on my list. I apologize for not being able to properly answer that question for you.
Oh, no, it's fine. I completely understand. Okay, so what advice would you give to others interested in exploring like the similar intersections between creative mediums and mental health services?
Could you repeat that one more time for me?
Oh, sorry. Okay, so what advice would you give to others who are like interested in exploring similar intersections between creative mediums and mental health services?
I would say I would give advice saying to just do it. And I know that that may seem very like easy to say, but it took me a while to just break down my walls and be like, I'm just going to do this. I want to see, explore your curiosity, explore how you would put yourself in your shoes. That's how I did with my kids. I was like, these make me feel good. These bring me connection. Let's see if it'll do the same thing for you.
Mhm.
Um, And then also research, just research different games that you like. Even it doesn't have to be a huge tabletop game like Wingspan. It can be something as small as Uno or Guess Who. Just something that your goal to connect with people and just see where it goes. All of it that I do comes from experience, but it also just comes from scratch. I create everything myself, just based on the experiences of people that I meet in life and who I play with. Um, so I would just tell them just do it and see what happens.
Okay, and also, could you tell me what the responsibilities come with along with being a DEID consultant? It's DEID, right?
DEIB, B as in
Oh,
boy.
B. Okay.
Okay. Could you repeat that one more time?
Oh, like, can you just tell me the responsibilities that come along with being a DEIB consultant?
Okay. So I do this personally on my own. I'm not with any company. So what I do in the industry is that I do a lot of cultural sensitivity trainings in regards to, okay, so if we have this type of image here and it's kind of questionable on the realms of diversity, how can we change it? So I'm working right now on Food Chain Magnet, which is a board game. So all of the images that you see on there, I've consulted to make sure that they are physically representing the identity and the person that they are trying to portray. It can also include like rule book sensitivity, so making sure that pronouns, not just he and she, are being used, just third person of the player or they, to make sure that it's very inclusive.
Mhm.
I'm still doing a lot of research on the best practices of belonging because belonging is more about the organization. And so that's what I kind of teach in my workshops as well about how can we create the entire entity to be more inclusive to individuals that are diverse instead of just focusing on the person. The B is actually something that just recently got added on.
Okay. So, what are the dimensions you look for when incorporating your reviews of games like Food Chain Magnet?
So define dimensions, just like the qualifications of it.
Yeah, I
Or,
mean,
okay.
yeah, yeah, that works. Yeah.
Okay, so what I look for just overall, it's like I take everything just with a grain of salt, but then also I look at everything blank, just everything just as it is before actually going into it. So one of the things that we were actually talking about for it is that we do have Korean, we have Japanese, and we do have other Asian American or Asian individuals, Asian identifying individuals that are in the game. There's so many different looks that you can do. So I had to do a lot of research. Um, Facial structure. And it's also based in like the 1940s and 1960s. So what we may look if we would go into and meet an individual that's from Japan now is going to be something completely different dress wise, according to what the game wants in like the 1940s and 1960s. And just really looking at everything just up front and then doing a lot of research behind it. So making sure, for example, like the Korean individuals, making sure the eye slants um, for the eyes are something that's very important because not all Asian individuals have the same eye shape. So
Yeah.
it's very important to research, and that's what I had to do and still do a lot of to make sure that we're accurately portraying the images.
Okay, so since like our world, I guess, constantly changes, how do these games like um how are they like catching up with how our world is like revolving?
They're actually behind, to be perfectly
Ooh,
honest. There's not
okay.
a lot of representation in gaming. And that's kind of why I wanted to be a personal diversity, equity, and inclusion belonging specialist, is so we can have more people that look like us, not only speak about the games, play the games, but then also design the games as well.
Mhm.
Um, there's been talk in the industry about more women representing in the images and the themes that is going on. Um, in the other way, cognitively, strategy is still really big in the board gaming community. What is
Mhm.
the purpose from A to B? Um, so as you know, there are some games that kind of get recycled back with the themes. Um, it's still there's still some work to do, but it really depends because the board gaming industry is so vast with the different, it's small, but it's vast in the different types of games that we have on our shelves and the people that play them.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so I would say there's still a lot of work that needs to be done to make it into a way I can positively and like accurately say like, yeah, like this is like this we were at level 1 and now we're at level 7. Uh,
Yeah, okay. So how did you get involved in the DEIB industry?
from teaching my kids.
Teaching kids.
I wanted my students to have someone that looks like them and to teach them about games. And then I realized I'm like, okay, well, there's inequalities in gaming. I can see it with my kids. I can see it with the products that I bring in. I really am falling in love with this DEI stuff. And that's how I got it. It all started when I was teaching. And it just started because I just put a game on the table. And one of my students would doing a teaching video that said, Miss Wehmeyer, there's no one up there that looks like me. And that was the last time I showed a video in my class. And I took the notion of being able to just teach the game myself so they can see this. And that's kind of how I was like, okay, well, we know that the board gaming industry is predominantly white. We need more representation. I don't
Mhm.
need anyone talking about it. I'm going to do it. Big go-getter.
Yeah,
Sometimes too
great.
much, but it's a passion and it's something that makes me happy.
Good. So where do you see the biggest needs for improvement in the DEIB sector?
I think being able to provide more opportunities to speak about it,
Mhm.
um, more opportunities to see individuals that look like me in those seats, uh, and then also just more opportunities for mentorship.
Okay, so do you see the DIB efforts drawing more individuals from different walks of life into the gaming industry?
I do. That's kind of my hope is that if anyone comes to like my workshops or my panels or anything in that nature, that they would be like, oh, we have some work to do and we're currently working on it. Yeah, it's like I'm a part of like the DE&I group at Gamma, which is the Gamers, excuse me, Manufacturing Association. And I really am proud that we have something like that. And it just keeps growing with more organizations. It's just being able to keep the focus properly to make sure
Mhm.
that they run efficiently so they don't die down. So, so yeah.
So how are you bringing either diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging into your work with Snowbright Studios?
With just being able to talk about the mental health and wellness piece, there are people in the Snowbright community, uh, that have created these characters within T-Top Ventures that have characters that are disabled. They are neurodivergent, and I'll be able to use those resources within that manual to be able to create mental health and wellness pieces.
Okay, so if you think across like the tabletop games you've seen and what game has really done it right and why? Like what is the set example of, oh, like this is how games should be?
I want to say also these questions are awesome. You were like stumping me like 10 people. I'm like, oh my gosh. Uh, I would say I haven't seen it done right. I don't have one off the top of my head. There are pieces. Oh, actually, scratch that. Um, Queens by Midnight by Daring and Press. Uh, Beautiful representation of women on the cover that don't look like monsters. Uh, all different diverse sizes and also including age with different hair color. Um, it's such a beautiful game and it is so woman focused. You don't see that a lot.
Yeah,
That is
I
a game
agree.
that yes, that one.
Have you played it?
No, I haven't. It's on my shelf of shame.
Oh. So after you complete your master's, what is the next step for you? Like what do you plan on doing after?
I would really, really enjoy doing either some board gaming therapy, like creating something like that. I'd love to be able to start up my own consulting firm. So where I can do D is so many letters. Diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging work in the industry more. Um, I just want to be able to keep in the industry because it's something that makes me happy. And I know that I mention happiness a lot, but I feel I've wasted too much time in my life not finding things that keep my interest and that I just do because I have to do. And I want to be able to incorporate, build curriculum, maybe write a book, do studies about how the impact of board gaming and other nerd things can really impact mental health for the best. And in the stigma that therapy just doesn't have to be in a chair,
Yeah.
in the stigma that therapy doesn't have to be the scary thing and that you can be as creative as you can.
All right, so since our audience is like students from all walks of life and their parents, what advice do you give them?
Just always continue to be yourself and not be ashamed to reach out for help and to lean on these creative tools for your comfort.
All right, thank you so much. That was really good. That's really good advice. I agree with that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that was my last question. Thank you so much for all this wealth of information. I would love to invite you back on to talk about the next steps of your journey after your master's.
Thank you. I'd love to. You're so kind.
So today, Miss Wehmeyer talked about different games, how she implemented it in her class, and how it overall impacted her students in regards to mental health. Playing these games allowed her students to be able to become comfortable, open up about their issues, reflect on situations, create solutions, and overall calm themselves down. Aside from how games impacted students inside the class, we discussed the four core elements of a game. These elements are diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and how they are structured and shown through a game, and why are they vital. Wrapping all that up, if you have any questions on board games and its connection to mental health that you want answered, or if you have any concerns, please email me at mentalhealthimage@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you on the next episode. Bye.